ዛሬ እንኳን ወደዚህ ዩቲዩብ ቻናል መጣችሁ። እንደተለመደው እንግዲህ ላይክ እና ሳብስክራይብ ማድረግን አትርሱ። በዚህ ጊዜያችን ልንሰራው የምፈልገው ነገር ለፋይናል ያዘጋጃችኋል ብዬ ከዚህ በፊት የተወሰዱ ጥያቄዎችን መሰረት በማድረግ ለመስራት እንድትሞክሩ አቅርቤላችኋለሁ። ስለዚህ እነዚህን አንዳንድ ጥያቄዎች እያቸው። ለምሳሌ እዚህ ያለው ጥያቄ የመጀመሪያው ጥያቄ ላይ ሚድ ኤግዛም ላይ የተካተተ ነው። እዚህ 15ኛው ጥያቄ የሚለው all rivers in the western drainage system flow westward except one. So the one is different, but the others from the drainage system we discussed before. There are starting from the Takezi, we discussed Abai, we discussed about the Barakobo and the Omogibe rivers. With the exceptions of 3 of them, Omogibe River, they flow into Lake Turkana, Lake Abe. We discussed before in this way. So you can see. Some are also, as this is from chapter 3, okay, from the lakes and the rivers you can see. This is Abai, one of the largest river just in terms of this volume, and also the longest river out of Ethiopia. Lake Tana, we discussed before. From the lakes, there are highland and rift valley lakes. From the majority of the Ethiopian lakes, this one is the largest one, you can see. Shala, we discussed before. Among the rift valley lakes, Shala is the deepest one. You can Duai, in terms of this distance, deepness, the shallowest one is from the Rift Valley Lake, Zuwai. Wabi Shabelle we discussed before in terms of its catchment area and the distance within the borders of Ethiopia, starting from the Arsi Valley Mountain, and it flows into Indian Ocean system. But it has a seeping problem at the soils of Somalia. And in terms of this catchment area, the largest one, and in terms of distance within Ethiopia, Wabi Shabelle also the longest compared to the Abai. So this is, you can see those alternatives by yourself. You can choose. The others, there are, for instance, this question is not for the final exam. It will not be the collective process of weathering, mass movement, erosion, which has happened in the Paleozoic. This one is also for, it is already passed, not for this time. This is also for the last, for mid exam, not for the final exam. You can jump to this one. The most prominent feature in the Rift Valley physiographic units of the Afar Triangle is, I think we discussed about the Afar Triangle has 3 sections. The one is the Afar Triangle, starting from south of the north of the Awash River at the Afar, and it goes up to the Lake Abe. So this one is the one section. This is the prominent feature. the widest Rift Valley areas. It has a distance from the west to the east, 200, starting from 200 up to 300 kilometers. So the main physiographic unit here, there are volcanic eruption, there are Rift Valley lakes like Lake Asal and Afrera. And besides to that, there are also, in terms of this climatic condition, it is very harsh climatic condition, inhospitable climatic condition the Afar Triangle it has. And the Afar also, for this answer, for this question, I think we can say the Dalol Depression or Kobar Sink is the main physiographic feature. The world's most spectacular extensive underground cave in Ethiopia is located in this is from chapter 3. You can see, for instance, extensive underground cave in Ethiopia, which is located in Bali. We can say Bali. This question is not for this time. Give Omo lowland is one of the western lowland structures belonging to the Rift Valley. Is that true or false? Yes, this is true. Ethiopia extension from the west to east is similar than the north to south. This one is the previous for the mid exam, not for this time. Lake Tana and lakes along the Rift Valley were formed in the same period. There is Lake Tana and lakes along the Rift Valley were formed in the same period with similar process. This is also the geological time. Okay. Yeah. They were formed in the different times. The occurrence of metallic mineral, this one is the previous question for the midterm, not for this term. You can see. This is also additional matching. You can see. Abia, I think from the Rift Valley, there are a number of Rift Valley lakes along the Rift Valley region. So the one is Abia, Lake Abia is the largest one from the Rift Valley, not from the Ethiopia. Just I'm asking you from the Rift Valley, Lake Abia is the largest one. Chabahar is the smallest. This is the last section of the Rift Valley, you can see. Shala is the deepest one from the Rift Valley lakes, you can see 250 meters deep it has. Zoa is I think 4 meters above sea level, 4 meters deep. 4 meters deep. This one, Lake Tana is the largest we discussed before. So you can see in which physiographic division of Ethiopia lowest sub-aerial point of the Afar continent is found. The lowest sub-aerial point of the African continent is found. African continent, just in which physiographic division of Ethiopia lowest sub-aerial point of the African continent is found. Lowest point. Western highlands and the lowlands, we do have different physiographic division. One is the Western highland and the associated lowland, the Southeastern highland and the associated lowland, and the other physiographic divisions of Ethiopia, the Rift Valley. So the Kobar Sink is the lowest portion which is found inside the Rift Valley portion, especially at the northeastern directions of the Rift Valley. Or we can say from the widest part of the Rift Valley. This is the answer already. This option we don't have. The Eastern Highland and the Lowland. We don't have Southeastern Highland and Lowland. These are the main physiographic divisions of Ethiopia, you can see here. All rivers follow westward, which finally ends at the Mediterranean, except one. Yeah, we discussed before. There was a question. Among those questions, the Abai River is, I think, the largest in terms of this volume from the western drainage. And last and finally, it empties into the Mediterranean Sea after joining with the White Nile, starting from Lake Victoria, that is the White Nile, and the Abai, which rose from the Gilgel Gibe and Choke Mountain, and it flows westward with crossing the Ethio-Sudanese border, and it reaches at Khartoum, and at Khartoum it joins with the White Nile, and finally it empties into the Mediterranean Sea. So this is, we can say, the Western drainage system. Sometimes we say the Mediterranean drainage system, we can. So Takazi is one of the tributary for the Nile River. Takazi, it's empty into the source of Sudan. It named as Atbara, we can say. Give Omo River, yeah, this is the answer. But Baro Akobo, Takazi, these are the tributary for the Nile River after joining the Khartoum. So you can see. Abai River Basin drains all of the following regions of Ethiopia except one. Abai River, for instance, Southern Nation Nationalities and People region, Amhara region, Benshangul, Oromia. So this one is the answer. This one is the answer, you can see. Which river Ethiopia is termed as about river when it reaches South Sudan? Termed as Sobat. Sobat River in South Sudan. We discussed before Atbara and Sobat River. Which rivers are? Ganale River, Zatbara Akobo River, Takazi River, and Wabshebele River. You can see those answers, the answers. Which one is the answer? That is, this is Ganale or Wabshebele or this one. Parakobo River is Sobat at South Sudan. We just, yeah, we discussed the detail about this river. In which period the land experienced climate change, ice age and pluvial rains. This is for chapter 2, not for the final exam. Which shape of the country is easy for administration? Different. This is for also chapter 1. Chapter 1. From the following river of Ethiopia, which one is termed as inland drainage? Which one? Is the inland Barakobu, Gibe Omo River, Takaze River, Abai River? Which one is the inland river? This is the inland river, with the exceptions of those, the western drainage, the river which is drains into the west, but this one is different, and structurally it belongs to the western, grouped to the western, but it flows to the southward, it empties into Lake Turkana or north of Kenya, the lake which is found north of Kenya. You remember this one. The other concept, there are also true false question here. This is population, chapter 7, no need to go there. Population, this one is population. The sex ratio, this is population. Rural density, this is population. The spatial distribution of temperature in Ethiopia is primarily determined only by altitude. I think if there are only this one, not only, but altitude is the most determinant factor, than the atmospheric circulation, ITCZ, and others. Most of our climatic conditions we discussed were just it determined by the atmospheric circulation, air pressure, and ITCZ. And topography is the one factor, or we can say altitude. But in terms of our climatic condition, the most determinant is altitude. If we ask you the most determinant, you can, you can, but this one is the only, not for the most. This one is. So population birth and death rate, life expectancy, this one is not for this. Weather is the state of atmosphere over long time period. That false or true, you can differentiate this one. In Ethiopia, internal migration, this one is not for the final. In Ethiopia, the export of its products migrate than import. This is chapter 8. You can see this subforest region, for instance, forest region, which alternative is very, yeah, forest region. I think the forest region, you can see this one. Maybe it starts an elevation from 450 to 3,500 meters. The forest region, this one. Sub-Afro-Alpine, for instance, we discussed the alpine vegetation. There are, Ethiopia has 5 vegetation type. The one is starting from the Afro-Alpine and Sub-Afro-Alpine, the first division. The second, forest division. The woodland savanna region, the third division. And steppe region, the 4th. And this one is the 5th division. So forest region, this one is, I think, the answer. Sub-Afro-Alpine vegetation, you can see sub-alpine vegetation. I think Gibera or giant lobula is the typical example for Afro-Alpine vegetation. Rica arborea, or we can say አስታ ማለት ነው። ይሄ በአማርኛው አስታ የምንለው ይሆናል። በታችኛው ከላይኛው የተራራ ክፍል በታችኛው ከተራራው ግርጌ ላይ የምናገኘው ማለት ነው። ከታች ቦተም at the bottom or the second zone of the mountain dominated Rica arborea, which is dominated at the second layers of the mountain. So sub-Afro-Alpine is for this answer. C. Woodland savanna region, you can see woodland savanna region, for instance, found at an altitudinal range starting from 250 to 2,300 meters. You can see for savanna, that is B, the correct. Woodland savanna region. Steppe region, for instance, steppe mean annual rainfall of starting from 100 to 550 millimeters. Semi-desert region, mean annual rainfall from 50 to 300 millimeters. 300 millimeters. So this is the answer, you can see. Left. Yeah, these are some of the questions. It helps you to prepare yourself for the final exam.